When I was at the age of just 3 years old, my parents decided that it would be better to raise my brother and I separated. Judging by the fact that to this day, when they hardly see each other and have nothing nice to say, I'm going to assume it was probably a smart idea. Although I still can't seem to wonder how my mother could raise two small toddlers all by herself. Don't get me wrong, we would see your father every weekend, and we only lived about 5 minutes away from him when my mom moved into a townhouse in Belmead, New Jersey. Growing up, the words child support would pop up here and there, but never did it occur to me how the government was so responsible for these fair words. By the age of only 7, and my brother now at the age of 6, my mom decided she wanted to live closer to her family. My mother's family resides in a town named Lebanon, Pennsylvania. My mom did her research and found that the best schools and most entertaining town near them looked to be a place named Hershey. We moved around from house to house until the three of us were comfortable. And finally, here we are, 9 years later. So, where does my dad fit into this equation? Well, my dad moved to a place named Chalfont, Pennsylvania. It's on the border of New Jersey and PA, and closer to the city of Philadelphia. It's about 2 hours, and it's way too far to see him and my 4 young half-siblings. Yet, somehow we're still connected. My father owns his own business and is considerably well off. In today's society, though, if there's one thing I learned thoroughly, it's that one person cannot live off of a single income. If it weren't for the words child support, my mom could have never raised us on her own. Therefore, it would have led her and my father to live a miserable life together, dragging me right into it. So how was a woman supposed to raise kids on her own without a partner there beside her? But the question here is to identify how a government branch's laws have impacted me. Well, I can tell you that thanks to the legislative branch and their decision to pass laws between two people who decide to have kids, my life was made a lot easier. In Pennsylvania, there's this thing called the support order, which is what makes sure my father pays my mom to raise us on her own. Surely there's not a day that goes by that my dad doesn't wish he lived with us, or, that he wished things could be different. But at the same time, my dad's respectfully glad that he has someone like my mom to take care of me and my brother. Surely my dad has no problem paying child support, considering he has a pretty well-off job. But for those that I've heard stories about who are absolutely struggling because their parent can hardly make the cut without the child support income they have, this idea of support order is something that I'm very grateful for. With my own knowledge of living with separated parents, I think it's extremely awesome that our government doesn't overlook the incomes of people living on their own, and are generous enough to realize that regardless of your financial stance, you should have to pay towards your partner raising your children. Since the year 1990, Pennsylvania has been one of many states on board for child support laws. To have the idea of child support is, in my opinion, completely logical. You hear stories of back in the day when people, were widowed and lost everything they had due to husbands going into the war or the Depression, you name it. Stories like that, they didn't have child support laws then. The legislative branch wasn't evolved enough. Nothing, really could have enabled what we have today. And I'm one of the many children in the United States that are unfortunately living with separated parents. But at the same time, I'm really grateful for everything the government has done to make sure that I'm living well off, and that I'm not, just because my parents aren't together, I'm drastically living in depression and homeless and all the horrible things that would have happened before these laws were passed, thanks to the legislative branch and their duty. So that's how a branch in the government has strongly impacted me in my daily life, my community, and just me living.